Wake up your morning in a brand new way with the positive people, places, events, and things in and around your neighborhood and around the world. No matter where you live, your mornings are about to get better. It's the refreshing way to start your day. No doom or gloom, just bright sunshine no matter what the weather. Metro Magazine with Bonnie McDaniel. Inspiring, informative, intelligent, Ion. Positively the best way to start your morning. Good morning and welcome to Metro Magazine. I am so tickled this morning because we're going to be kicking off our Songs for Justice series with all kinds of amazing artists, and I could not be more happy than I am right now because he's the perfect guy with the booming voice. I've known Soloman Howard for a number of years, and I am so honored this morning that he's in the studio talking about his life and also talking about the contribution that he's going to be making to the Songs for Justice series. So, Soloman, welcome to Metro Magazine.
Glad to be here.
And I mentioned, I don't know how many years it's been since I've known you. Maybe we won't tell, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, really.
When I first came to Virginia, you were a much younger young man.
Right.
And I remember, I think I probably knew you for a couple of years, and then I knew your dad sang.
Right.
He has an amazing voice.
Yes.
But for some reason, I had missed your singing during different activities at church. And then one day you opened your mouth and I was like, oh my gosh, where did that come from? So I was asking you off camera, talk about when you discovered you had this gift. How old were you? And talk about the encouragement, because I know your mom was a big encouragement to you.
Yeah, my mom actually, I guess, realized the gift or the fact that I had talent. And at the age of 3, it's crazy how some of the things that I remember things from, when I was really young, but then like last week, like what the heck was I doing last week? I don't remember that stuff.
Yeah.
But my mom would stand me on the table, the offering table at my grandfather's church, which was her father, was a pastor in D.C. So they would stand me on the table and I would sing songs that she had taught me. My mom is a singer as well.
Oh, is she?
So,
oh my gosh, so you couldn't help but be.
Yeah, my mom and dad met as they were out doing concerts. My mom and her sisters were a gospel group, the Flood Sisters.
Okay.
My father and his brothers, of course, the Howard Singers. Both sets of grandparents sang. So
Wow.
it's all in the blood. But my mom would stand me on the offering table at my grandfather's church, and I would sing, and I also would quote scripture verses from the Bible that I had memorized. So like I was saying earlier, I was getting my experience in narration or voiceovers as well as singing. So I started out really young and worked my way through school. I was always in chorus from pre-K all the way through. I finished undergrad until I finished undergrad. And my freshman year of high school is when I realized the gift of classical music, or that I had, a voice that was going towards classical music.
So was there ever a moment during your formative years when you thought, I don't really want to do this, maybe I want to do something else? Or was it something that you were just naturally drawn to?
I was naturally drawn to football.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I do know you play football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was naturally drawn to that, but outside of football, it was music. I love the fact that, especially with opera, that it was, it encompassed, drama, not music, and costuming. So it was like all of the performing arts, visual and performing, in the same vein, on the same stage at the same time. So that's what I loved about classical music, or opera specifically.
And church, I know your dad's a pastor.
Yes.
And so I would imagine in your growing up, that had a huge influence. I know if I think about a lot of performing artists, many of them had their roots in church.
Right.
Talk about the impact that had on you in terms of community, in terms of your having that confidence. What do you think was the greatest gift you got from being nurtured in that type of environment?
It was just a sense of being aware of who you are, your purpose. There were times where, some of my friends, my peers, colleagues, are you sure that this is what you want to do? And especially the guys that I play football with, opera, opera's boring. But one, they had never listened to it. They had never been to an opera. To see that it was just as exciting as anything else they had seen, we're running around on stage, diving here and diving there, all while singing. I just did a Muhammad Ali opera, so I'm boxing.
And I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was, yeah.
Yeah, so it was, going back and really realizing that this is my purpose, and that's something that you learn in church. We believe that God gives us a purpose, so we're put here for a reason. So that was my purpose. So that's something that I got, I appreciate from growing up in church. Also, just being a spiritual person, whenever I'm struggling with something, I pray about it. The sense of community, as you mentioned. I just made my Met Opera debut, Metropolitan Opera in New York.
And we're going to talk about that because I was so excited when I heard that.
And there were so many people from churches that I've, ministered at or performed at, however you want to call it, over the years that came up to New York. It was close to 1,000 people. Majority of them being from DC. Also, people from Washington Opera, from the Kennedy Center coming up to support. So just that sense of community and just being aware of myself and my purpose.
And say what you will about church folk, because I'm also a preacher's daughter.
Yeah.
But you say what you want to about church folks, but when it comes down to community, to support, when you step out there, they come in numbers. And I know from having grown up pretty much the same way as you did in terms of being in church and community, that I couldn't imagine my life different than that. So talk to me a little bit about, I'm sure that over the years there have been times when because we all have those moments of reflection and trying to figure out, am I where I'm supposed to be? Do I want to be over here, where there have been temptations to maybe be a part of another community? Or talk to me about that.
There were the moments where I kind of doubted, is this really for me? Especially when things got tough. Of course, if everything was just easy and gravy, as we say sometimes, the entire time, then you would never have to search for that inner strength. Search your soul and say, I believe this to be my purpose. But, there were those times. And I had to rely on, knowing that this is what I'm meant to do. So no matter what come my way, I have to, persevere and strive to reach my goal. And it's a double whammy for me because my mom's a minister as well.
Oh, wow.
So, if I was, spending time with my dad, or spending time with my mom, it's like, no, this is your purpose, know what it is, and stick to it. Don't let anyone persuade you to do otherwise. And, like I said, there were those times where, should I be out on the football field or should I be, somewhere doing something else? But no, this is what it's meant for me. So, and, my career will last a lot longer, singing as it would have on the football field.
Yeah, your knees will just crap out on you at some point. It'll be over. Or, with a lot of the football players now, you hear a lot about the brain injuries that a lot of them are dealing with.
I have a brother who's pursuing a professional career, so I'm praying for him daily.
In football?
Yes. I'm praying for him daily.
Well, I guess the good news is that, because I do follow it somewhat, being in the media, they are doing a lot of research and making sure that they put protective measures in place, I guess with the helmets and things like that. Yes. So that's very good to know. Yes. And I guess, on that same subject, the fact that there have been a lot of football players who've been injured, and some of them have even donated their brains so they could do the research. Exactly. It says a lot to the advancement that's been made in that profession.
And the fact that people still care about the game, love the game, so they want to make the game.
Oh, there's nothing like a good,
possible.
There's nothing like a good football game.
Right.
Yeah, or a good basketball game for that matter. But we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and delve a little bit more, because I want you to really speak to a lot of the young people out there. Because I think you bring a lot of value in terms of those who are searching and trying to figure out, where do I belong on this planet? I think you have a lot to offer. And so we're going to come right back. We'll be right back with more Metro Magazine.
You're a mean one,
Mr. Grinch, you really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus, as charming as an eel. Mr. Grinch, you're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
If you're just joining us, we're here with Solomon Howard this morning, and we are kicking off our Songs for Justice series. And he's just one of the many artists who are going to be coming in. We're going to be talking about their lives and the music that they perform. So when we went to break, Solomon, I was beginning to ask you about your younger years and things having to do with decisions that you had to make. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm hoping that young artists out there will be able to garner from this conversation is, what did it take in terms of fortitude, your decision-making process? What kinds of things did you have to, to reach to in order to help you make good decisions?
Well, I grew up family very poor,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes living in hotels,
Mm-hmm.
shelters, eating from a Salvation Army food truck from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
My stepfather losing work, so he did the best that he could, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm the eldest child of 7 on my mom's side,
Okay.
so it was tough.
Mm-hmm.
So there were times where I literally relied on the help from people at church,
Mm-hmm.
from mentors
Mm-hmm.
that recognized a gift in me,
Mm-hmm.
the talent. Washington Performing Arts, I was a part of the Children of the Gospel Mass Choir,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a lot of people who invested into me then
Mm-hmm.
because of what they felt that I had. And then, I wasn't even sure, I was going to go to school after high school. I just was not sure about that,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the resources. So I was fortunate enough to be able to get a scholarship to go to school for free. But, it was the fact that I was talking with my brother Benjamin, who's pursuing his football career. We were talking about, just always being ready. And it was
Mm-hmm.
something that I always had to do, always practice. I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to sing as much as I could because I knew that, that was my purpose, as I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I always, practice and listen to music.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have couldn't afford coaches,
Mm-hmm.
to vocal coaches for us. They help us learn music or help
Mm-hmm.
us, work on the language to get it as close to, authentic or perfect as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I, couldn't afford those. So I would, listen to recordings. I would take, if I would go to the library and they had, a CD of it, like
Mm-hmm.
I would play the CD and I would have a little tape recorder and record it.
Wow.
Or, listening to the radio. Like if
Mm-hmm.
it was something that I heard I liked, I would get my tape recorder. I always carried my tape recorder around and I would record it. Not knowing who it was, but just record it.
Was this classical music or any genre?
Well, all genres of music, because I still sing other genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically when I wanted to do classical music,
Mm-hmm.
and I would get recordings or I would make my own recordings so that, and I would just use it for myself so that I could kind of teach myself, or, try and get, mimic the sound that they have.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, you had every possible obstacle
Yeah.
in the world that was
Yeah.
there, but you had this sense of, I got to get this. And you said something talk about a nugget. You said you talked to your brother about always being ready.
Yes, yes.
Did you know that you were preparing for?
I had no idea.
But still, you had the sense that you needed to be ready in case it happened, or
in
you
case it
knew it
happened.
was okay in case it happened.
I had no idea. This is what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know that I was actually going to get the opportunity or have the chance to do it.
But where did that come from? You're knowing that. Kids don't walk around saying, I need to practice. I need to learn, even though I can't afford,
Right.
to have professional lessons.
It's just that, be ye always ready, also ready.
So you went back to scripture.
Back to scripture.
Okay.
And then also it was a certain competitiveness from playing sports.
Okay.
So all the things that I was around. All those values and morals that I learned from scripture, and then from the athletic community. Always preparing yourself or being prepared. And I talk with my brother because sometimes he's not in the place where he can actually practice with the quarterback, being a receiver. But he does whatever he can, to get out and make sure somebody's throwing the ball.
You play with
to
him sometimes?
Well, he lives in Atlanta now, so
Okay.
I started him out playing, and I would take him out in the yard, rain or shine, and we're doing drills, like whatever I knew, I was teaching him that. And at a very young age, I realized that he had, just as much talent as any of the kids that have been playing for years, or just as much talent as I had when it came to football, but also for music for me, some of the natural ability. So yeah, like I said, I told him always be ready, and that's something that I believe myself. So like I would do, I would take recordings, I would tape them, on my Walkman, and I would listen to them and try and go through, and that's where I developed my ear. And it was later going to school that I actually had to develop, my eyes as well, like knowing what, reading music and knowing what it was that I saw and being able to play it on the piano so I could teach myself my music. So, I found, little ways to help myself along. And like I said, I knew that, that I wanted to do it. Wasn't sure if I would get the opportunity to do it. And it seemed like, some things just kept happening, things just kept happening and, trying to knock me off course, but I stuck with it.
And that's when I think about the excuses people make. And I'm even here sitting feeling guilty myself, because every now and then, things will get tough and you start to make excuses about, well, I can't do it because. And obviously that never, if it entered your mind, you immediately dismissed it as not being useful for what you had to do. Discipline is something that you obviously have a tremendous amount of. Where did you learn that?
Well, I saw my stepfather, considering circumstances and like financial situations that we were in. He still got up every morning, and sometimes he would walk miles to get to a bus, to catch the bus to the train station, to catch the train into DC to work. And he would work whatever job he could find, part-time jobs. It was just I was going to do what I had to do to try and provide something for my family. I learned that from my stepdad. And my mom, making sure, you're not going to spend hours and hours just watching TV and, doing nothing with yourself. We always had, to study our Bibles, and then also she made sure that, okay, so you'll spend a few moments a day or whatever, however much time you need, learning music, being in chorus. I come home, so what'd you learn today? What songs were you singing? Let me hear them. And her being a musician as well, it's like, that's not in tune, sing this way. So those were some of the things that, was instilled in me. And I saw my biological father, my dad, Isaac Howard, that he worked hard, it was, I still see him to this day, and it's like a few hours sleep here, back on the job. A few hours sleep there, back on the job, doing, construction, home restoration, and then still go preach somewhere, go sing somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, so people, in the family were really dedicated to what they, they thought they were supposed to be doing. Very responsible,
And your dad's a good teacher. I sing, not sing like you do, but I remember when we first moved to Virginia, and I always sang in the choir, and we were at your dad's church at the time. And I remember joining the choir and just singing with everybody else. And one day at practice, he's like, you. I'm like, what did I do? I thought maybe I was singing off key. He goes, come here. He says, sing this. Because I used to be a soloist in my dad's church, and he goes, okay, you're going to sing this. And from there, but I don't know how and I guess maybe people who teach music or direct choirs or whatever, they can hear different voices. Exactly. But you think you're blending. Yeah. But he just like.
And certain voices stand out. Like you said, you think you're blending.
Yeah.
But there's something about the quality of your voice that may stick out. It's like you're not quite meant to be in the choral setting all the time. So sometimes they pull you up front, and
Mrs. Oh gosh. David, what's her name at our church?
Oh, Joyce Garrett?
Yes. I sang in the women's chorus a couple of years ago for the Women's Day, and she says, you need to come to choir rehearsal because this was just special. Yeah. And so I haven't gone yet. I keep promising. She'll see me. She goes, so when are you joining the choir? So
you better do it. Miss Garrett knows. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
So she hears something in you.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You better listen. And she's one who...
She's amazing.
When I talked about mentors and sponsors.
And I know she's one of your mentors now.
She has been one behind me from day one. I met her through the Children of the Gospel Choir.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Okay, so you met her before you came to Alfred Street.
Before I came to Alfred Street.
Okay.
And she had, the nation's, or I would say the nation's, top high school course at Eastern Senior High School in Southeast D.C. So I would always see her on, Christmas in Washington, Kennedy Center Honors, because she had been directing the chorus for that. And then also knowing about Eastern High School, being that I grew up in D.C. I'm from Southeast D.C. And then, going to Alfred Street, she would bring me over there to sing. And when I went to school, whenever, Morgan Choir, I went to Morgan State University, we were America's Best College Choir. So we would travel around the world, literally around the world.
She was involved with that?
No, but whenever I went, she would send singers from Eastern to Morgan. But whenever I went somewhere, because she believed in me, her and her husband would invest and, send money, spending money for trips. I'm talking, hundreds of dollars, like, Miss Garrett, we're going here and I think I may need just a little bit, to make sure I eat. And I'll send hundreds of dollars to make sure I'm not overseas, hungry, or, and they, just always invested and believed. And whenever, something special, a special event, she would call me in to sing. So that's a family there, the Garretts, that, really helped me out.
And you're really touching on something that I'd like you to also speak to, and that is the importance of mentors.
Yes.
Not so much from kids looking for mentors, but from people who have gifts to share.
Right, exactly.
Them lending their time, their talent, whatever, to encourage that person that's coming up behind them. Talk about that for a minute.
And that's the same thing that I'm trying to do now. There are kids, like I love going to schools and talking to kids. And then also, I had a mentor, Morris Robinson, who's still singing now. Morris Robinson, who's a bass, who's like, okay, well, if any mentor, he's a classical or opera singer, he sings bass, same as me, opera singer, bass, he played football, and he plays drums. I play percussion as well. So it's like, this is almost like, me in the future, he's just a few years older, so why not, talk to him? And he actually approached me and said, I hear something. It's like, I give you, 5-6 years and you'll be on the stage yourself. And,
wow.
I was like, really, really? So, he said, take my number. And if you ever have any questions about what rep to sing, the struggles of the voice, because the bass voices, we mature later. It's like, just call me and I'll tell you whatever I know. April Haynes, who sings in the Met Chorus, she went to Morgan. And I met her. She's been singing with the Met Chorus for over 20 seasons now. I met her when she knew I was coming to New York. Someone from Morgan State said, this is who you need to talk to. She's there and she's in the profession. So what I'm doing now, and some people say, slow down. You still want to make sure that your career, that you're taking your proper strides, the right strides, you know, all the right timing to make sure you're in the place where you're supposed to be. And then, but it's something about me that says, you know, these people help me, you know, when it may not have been the right time for them, you know.
But you know, Scripture also talks about the fact that if there's an opportunity, and I'm paraphrasing, if someone is before you right now with a need, and there's an opportunity, you're supposed to do it right then, whether it's convenient or whatever. So you're still
so
very in tune.
Yeah, that's something that I feel like, you know, well, people did it for me. Like, why can't I? Like, I may not be, you know, extremely wealthy right now, but at the same time, if it's no more than making sure that they're connected to the right voice teacher, you know, if they are, you know, headed to the right school, you know, or if, you know, they can, if I can just get them free tickets to come and see a production, knowing that, you know, I didn't see my first opera until 2008, and here it is 2015, and I'm singing on the country, if not the world's largest stage, at the Metropolitan Opera, and also, you know, where I feel like my career was birthed at Washington National Opera, at the Kennedy Center. So it's like, you know, why not turn around and extend that same opportunity or same helping hand to the younger generation, or someone who may be even the same age as I, but, you know, might not see that these opportunities are available for them. So it's just sometimes just encouragement.
And you know, because I grew up, my dad was a Baptist, Southern Baptist preacher. And I know when I was growing up, so most of my exposure to music was gospel. You know, of course, I heard blues and all, you know, the other genres, but in terms of classical music, that was not something that I experienced growing up. And I'll never forget when I met my husband. My mother-in-law sang classical music. She had an amazing, at 16 she was, you know, at Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
Yeah, she had an amazing voice. And so she introduced me by taking me to an opera. And it's when I saw that, and you're going to love this, the first opera I saw was Aida.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, at the Garden State, they had a arts center or something. I forgot the name of it now because it's been years. But I went and I saw it, and I was absolutely smitten. Wow. It was like, oh my God, I found, you know, I listened to classical music before then, but that's when I just fell in love. And so I go to the NSO at the National Symphony at the Kennedy Center. And I always try to find a young person to take with me. And mostly the response is, I don't know if I like that kind of music. I'm like, listen. And normally if I'm sitting there, I'm talking to them like, where have you heard that before? Because it's like intertwined in so many genres of music if you listen very closely. Even little kids, they're great because they recognize it. Because they hear it on the cartoons. They use classical music a lot.
Hip-hop uses, you know,
they sure do,
I believe Puff Daddy sampled the Carmina Burana.
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, it's all over.
Yeah,
it's all over.
Yeah. So we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to put you on the spot. And I want to hear the first song that you fell in love with. If you can give us just a few, you know, a few lines. Yeah, you said you're always ready, so you're good. We're going to come right back, and we're going to hear this booming voice, and you're going to see why he's sitting in that chair this morning. So we'll be right back after break.
Up to 40% of businesses never recover after experiencing a major disaster. Make a plan at ready.gov/business.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
Oh, sweetheart. Gonna give you a hand?
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
A great task lies ahead, my friends. Our guests will undergo the trials. You and me, we sweat and strain, body all aching and racked with pain. Tote that part, lift that pail, get a little drunk, and you landed safe.
So Solomon, are you ready?
I'm ready.
He says, I'm always ready.
Always ready.
When we went to break, I was talking about the fact that I wanted to let people sample just a little bit of this voice, and they would understand why, first of all, why you're here, and secondly, why we chose Solomon Howard as one of the featured artists for our Songs for Justice series. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Songs for Justice because I need your support. We need your support. So Solomon, why don't we go back to maybe one of your old favorites, because you say you do different genres of music. So what's one of your favorites that maybe your mom taught you or maybe you learned from your dad? And maybe give us a few bars.
I would always sing like Precious Lord,
Okay.
My Lord, What a Morning, some of the sacred stuff that, you know,
Okay.
you say like my mom, my dad,
Okay.
you know, taught me.
So maybe do a few bars of a favorite from your mom and
Okay.
then a favorite from your dad. That way we honor them both.
Oh, wow. They
Just
both
a-
liked Precious Lord. So
Okay, so we'll honor them both with that.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home.
Wow, I am one lucky woman. I get to sit in this chair and hear this firsthand. Oh my goodness. We were talking about off camera, we were talking about your mentor and him talking to you about how do you get from here to there and the discipline and how you work your way. Talk about that, taking your time.
You know, Morris Robinson told me years ago, and you know, whenever I tell someone this, I always call him later to say, you know, I actually had to share again what you told me because I always am drawn back to it. But he told me, you know, both of us playing sports, there were moments where I would get impatient in my voice lessons. And, you know, we call those studios. It's, you know, small room with a piano in it. And so it's a studio room for us. He would say to me, when I would call him, like, man, I'm frustrated. I can't get this, you know. Like, I call him Big Bro, you know, I can't get this. My voice won't, you know. It's like, well, how would you do it if you were at the gym, you know? Like, you can't lift, you know, 405 pounds right now. But you wouldn't, you know, keep trying to lift that 405 knowing that you can't even move it. What would you do to get there? You would work your way up to it. So why would you do anything different in your voice lessons? It's like, I understand you feel like you have this voice and, you know, it's supposed to happen right now, but you work your way up. And you know, I never looked at it like that. I thought, you know, I'm supposed to get it now. You know, I've been singing all my life. I'm supposed to have it right now.
Right.
Like, no, you have to work your way up to it, you know, and then once you get there, I mean, because our vocal cords, vocal folds, it's muscle, you know, so we have to train the muscles just as we, you know, athletes, you know, whoever exercises, you would train your body. And that's one thing that he said, you know, treat your studio, your voice studio, as if it were the gym. You know, use the same dedication and the same, you know, pacing yourself. You know, you do the same thing in the studio. It's like, well, I never thought about it like that.
And you know, and I think that's a great lesson for life, talking about working your way,
Right.
pacing yourself,
Right.
taking your time to
Yeah.
get there. Because I mentioned off camera too that I mentor a lot of young women who, when they see or admire something in me, is like, I want to do that. And I'm like, okay, it takes time to get there.
Right.
Because if you do rush it, then if you were to use what an athlete does, if you do it before it's time, you could rip a muscle or maybe go out there before you're ready to do whatever the sport is.
Right, right.
And then wind up missing that moment when it happens. So I think that's, as well as being great for training, for as an athlete
Yes,
or as
yeah.
a musician, it's really a great lesson for life,
Yes.
taking your time. I know too that you've had an amazing career at a very young age, and I'm guessing you're probably about 33, 34.
34.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember in relationship to my daughter what your age is. But when I look at the things that you've done over the course of seems like a long career. I guess from a lifespan it is long,
Right.
but professionally it hasn't
yeah.
been
It's just
that long.
Just 4 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
see,
you have just been doing a tremendous job and getting on all sorts of stages.
Yes.
Talk to me about the Metropolitan Opera.
Well, the opportunity came from Maestro Placido Domingo.
Uh-huh.
I was here at the Washington National Opera. I was in the Young Artist Program. Scott Guzlick discovered me.
Tell people who Scott is in case they don't
he
know.
was the Director of Artistic Planning for Washington National Opera. And I went in for an audition. This was a year after I finished my master's, had nothing to do. I was, at that point, becoming discouraged and, is this really for me? And that's where I had to rely on knowing this is for you and it'll happen when you're ready or when the time is right. So I went to a course audition a year later and I started and Scott looked up and said, a few choice words that, I won't use right now, like, holy, where have you been? And,
Wow.
So he took me to Christina Schepelman, who was the artistic director. A few months later, she was out, traveling, different companies, on business. And so it took a little while. So we had to catch her when she had gotten back. So then from there, the very next day, they had me come back and sing for Maestro Placido Domingo.
Wow. What was that like?
That's when I knew, I've been practicing. This is make or break.
That's right.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
So you either go in. It was not I couldn't go in with nerves, bad nerves, or doubting myself because I might have never, that would have been my moment, and I could have messed it up. So I went in. I said, I know that this is what I do. So that's what I did. I went in and I performed to the best of my ability. And he was the music or the general director for the opera company at that time.
Okay.
And it happened at the right time because had I waited another year, he would have been gone by then. So he created a spot in the Young Artist Program for me right on the spot. So,
oh my goodness.
So I went through the training, got my experiences there. Then a few years ago, 2 summers ago, I competed in his competition, Operalia. It's the largest competition worldwide for opera singers. And his panel is full of judges from different opera companies. They're either general directors, artistic directors, managers of opera companies. And Jonathan Friend from the Metropolitan Opera was there. And Placido told Jonathan Friend, there's a bass voice that's going to be here, watch out for him. And Jonathan Friend heard me, told Lenore Rosenberg, who hires Compromario roles, told her about me at the Metropolitan Opera. When they came to DC to hear me sing, I performed parts of the role from Aida that I sing, which is the king. And I was able to, she liked what she heard and offered me the contract a short time after. So that's how the opportunity came. And I remember all of it. I will never forget it,
But
extremely grateful.
Yeah, but I think the
Very
greatest thing that you've said so far, and you've said there have been some really great nuggets, is the idea of being prepared.
Right. Yeah.
There are a lot of, and I'll say young people, and sometimes maybe more seasoned people, who get an idea about wanting to do something and going back to that, wanting to rush the process, not understanding the importance of putting in the time.
Right. Right.
And I'm relating to you earlier when you were talking about training. I've been training with a fitness trainer now, and I thought I had been trained before. I've had some great fitness trainers. Nah.
Nothing like it.
I mean, right now I'm sitting, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday are my training days. And so I went on Monday, and he said to me, and every time I go, I keep thinking, okay, I've gotten this. And he's like, no, you don't have it.
Right.
He's gradually adding weight. And when I went on Monday, I guess maybe yesterday I got up, I was like, I hurt. There were muscles I didn't even know were there.
Right, right.
And so this morning he said to me, and he made me lift even more. And he said to me, you thought you were hurting yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
He said, you have no idea.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No idea.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that helps me to be able to, because I am a very disciplined person, help me to be able to accept and know that this is for my good because I'm trying to get somewhere, was the fact, because he asked me this morning, he says, were you athletic in high school? And I said, no. I said, I played tennis. He goes, that's very athletic. He said, because I noticed that you grasp things very quickly when he's giving me and talking about form and things like that.
Right.
So all of those elements, which is why I'm talking about it, are important as a part of the process of being prepared. Having said that, what are some of the, if you had to give advice to a young person who's maybe going into music, athletics, whatever, what are some of the, say, 3 important things that they need to pay attention to in order to be prepared when their moment comes?
Well, as you explained, and as I know from being athletic, working out, is that you said that your trainer, you went back today, being sore already, he added weight. So he's constantly challenging. You challenge your muscles, and that's how they grow. You keep adding. Challenging, and that's how you grow. I tell singers specifically, once you learn something, try and learn something else. Have something else in your arsenal just to make sure that you're that much stronger, that much more stronger, a performer, or just mentally, tougher than, because if we don't challenge ourselves, we won't grow.
Yeah, you get complacent. It's like, okay, I'm there. You're never there.
We learn something, we get comfortable, and it's like, but what you actually really need for this is still another 100 yards away. So why are you stopping there? So just the fact that we always want to challenge ourselves to be better. We never want to be comfortable. And then also something that I remind people that there's always someone waiting to do what you're doing.
Right.
So, just making sure you're disciplined enough to know that I need to stay on course. I kind of need to stay focused. And then also, like I said earlier, I try and give back as much as I can, even if it's just volunteering my time.
And which time is such a great gift to give someone, because anybody can write a check.
Yeah, and I have a daughter. She lives in South Carolina now. She'll be 13 on the 8th of April. And so, traveling and living so far away, I try and fly her wherever I am, a few times a month, at least once a month. But, just the quality time of, talking to her. But, being an example to her, that's one thing. You never know who's watching you.
Right.
So you have to constantly remember that, you're an example to someone. Whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, someone is going to say, I always looked up to you, and I did this because you did it. And so for me specifically, I'm having my own child, I have to be that much more careful of what I do, you know, as far as my profession. She, you know, she's very well. She's a better student than I ever
Does she
was.
also sing?
She sings, but she plays the tuba in her youth orchestra down in South Carolina. So she's very dedicated to that. Her mom told her, you know, are you sure you want to be a musician? Because you know your dad's a professional musician, classical music as well.
Yeah.
So he's gonna make sure that you practice, but we allow her to decide that, you know, this is what I really want to do.
Right.
So then, you know, because sometimes we make kids do things, and it may not be their purpose, you know, or it may not be where their passion is.
Right.
So it's important to help, you know, find, you know, what it is that they are naturally gravitate towards. You know.
And you bring up something interesting, because to be good at something doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it takes, I think that throws a lot of people off course.
Yeah. And there are a lot of great people struggling because it's like, that's not what you're really supposed to be doing. You know?
And trying to emulate. I know a lot of, you know, people in various professions that I run across will see someone, for instance, who's a great speaker, and decide, I want to be a great speaker. Well, there are people that kind of rolled out of bed, and the minute they opened their mouths, it was like, wow. They didn't very much like yourself, who it just came because it was a part of your purpose, as opposed to, because you can be trained to do almost anything if you have enough discipline. But whether or not it's where you're supposed to be is very, very different. Because if it's natural for you, I mean, it just comes.
Yeah, and that's one of the dangers. Well, there are dangers that come with, you know, being naturally gifted, you know, or just having that natural ability. It's that sometimes we don't think we have to work as hard.
Right.
So then the person with the lesser natural ability surpasses you because
they
work harder.
Time.
They put in the time. So
wow.
It's, you know, Melvin Miles is the band director at Morgan State University, and he always said it's clock hours. It's about clock hours. If you look at, you know, like athletes, and you know, I keep going back to it, but you know, it's what I can relate to. If you look at athletes that, you know, are professional athletes now, the great ones, most of them played little league sports. This is before high school, before you know they could officially join a team. Well, I guess the little league was a team, but before high school, so you know, they were in little league, then high school, then college, then pros. And it's, you know, all that time you think about all the hours that they put in behind from little kids. You know, and that's something that, you know, you may say, wow, you know, he was born to do that. Yes, he was born to do that, but he put the time in as well to make sure that the technical things, he didn't just rely on natural ability, but he was technically sound as well. And that's what it is, putting in the clock hours. I'll never forget Melvin Miles saying that. It's about clock hours, you know.
And you've shared some tremendous wisdom with the audience this morning. And I'm going to, because we're going to run out of time shortly, I want to talk about a little bit about Songs for Justice. And when I came to you, which is at church, I hadn't seen you in a while, and then you're like, hey, and I look, I'm like, oh, it's Soloman, because you tower so much over me. But the minute I asked you about being a part and told you what this mission was for Gideon's Promise, it's an organization that I'm working with to try to help the poor who find themselves in situations and can't afford a good attorney, to make sure they don't wind up someplace that they were never intended to be. Talk to me about, and I chose music because they came to me and said, we're trying to accomplish X. And I chose music because I thought it's a language that everyone speaks.
Exactly.
Talk to me about why you said yes. And by the way, the 30th is not the last of this, because we're we're working towards this big concert that we want to do at the Verizon Center. I put it out there on the 7th of November, and we're going to bring all genres of music into that house and bring what they need to get the work done. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, one thing, you know, we talk about music, it speaks to everyone. Often you'll hear people say that music is the one universal language, because, you know, say you don't necessarily understand, like, you know, the language, or, you know, that they're speaking in, the dialect or whatever, a lot of times you hear or you can feel the intent behind it. You know, you can sense, like, this is something that they're singing is full of conviction. They're very passionate about it. Or, you know, they're happy, and, you know, it gets everyone jumping, you know, like the song Happy.
Look at Pharrell. I mean, my gosh.
Everyone's jumping, you know, across the world, you know, and they can translate it to their language, whatever happy is in their language.
So talk about justice and how you think this might, as a musician, as an artist,
yes,
how this might impact that whole
Well, I mean,
cause.
you think about the songs that helped, you know, in the civil rights movements, like, you know, "Oh Freedom" and "We Shall Overcome," you know. So using music and actually connecting to people through music for justice and helping them out. You know, I mean, we all end up in situations, or most of us have ended up in situations that, you know, had we not had the right people around to help us, or had we not, like, for some of us, thought of that song that actually said something to us, you know, to help encourage us again, you know, we wouldn't be here, or, you know, we would be here, but, you know, in places that, you know, that pretty much have taken our lives from us. So I believe that, you know, like just the theme, Songs for Justice, you know, for me, it just re-energizes and re-encourages, or encourages someone again to say that, you know, that there is, like the song, there's a place for us, you know, somewhere a place for us. You know, that's what it's about. That no matter what you've gone through, there's something that, you know, like, you still have a purpose. You still should be treated as a human. You know, and you can still contribute to society. You know, there are all types of things that, you know, that need to be done for the earth to continue to move, and we have a long ways to go. So, you know,
and we do, and I'm so honored, first of all, to be given the opportunity to do this, but also to have the different languages. Because you speak a different language than someone who, for instance, we have violinist Chelsea Green, who's going to be performing the same night as yourself. A different language, but the message is universal, and as it has to do with this cause, that everyone deserves, and you said it, to be treated like a human being. So I'm going to put you on the spot again. If I could have you maybe do something from Aida, is that tough? Or maybe choose something. I'll let you choose something.
Okay.
That's of a classical genre.
Okay. Let's see. Some people say, you know, is it opera or is it musical theater? Old Man River from Showboat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see, what key would that be? There's an old man called Mississippi. That's the old man that I'd like to be. What does he care if the world's got trouble? What does he care if the land ain't free? Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something, but don't say nothing. He just keeps rolling. He keeps on rolling along.
Wow, and you know what just occurred to me? You're sitting.
Yeah, hey, and that's another thing, like making sure my technique, and, you know, I still sing from the same place, whether I'm sitting or standing. And you have opera now, the climate is changing. You have a lot of stage directors that are coming from musical theater, that are coming from you know, stage plays, that are coming from film, from Hollywood, if you will, that are asking for the singers to do different things. So it's not always you're just standing there flat-footed and singing.
Right. Sometimes
you're on the floor, you're hanging upside down, you know, you're wrestling with someone, or like I did in the Muhammad Ali, I'm boxing while I'm singing. So, like, you just have to rely on that same core.
I am so impressed. Well, we're going to, if you could just share with the audience what's next for Solomon Howard, and We're
Yeah.
going to kind of close it up.
So next season, I have the privilege of making my LA Philharmonic debut under the baton of Maestro Gustavo Dudamel. I will be singing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Some of you may know the theme from Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. It's the same thing, but at German, Freude, schöne Goethe, Funken, Tochter aus. So I will do that, and I have, because he wants to use the same soloist for all of the performances, there is a recording opportunity. We will be going to Caracas, Venezuela next month to do, this will be like my official first professional classical recording. So I will do that next month in Venezuela, which is amazing. You know, I'm going to Venezuela just to go to the studio.
That's what happens when you prepare yourself for life.
Right.
Yeah.
And this summer I go to Glimmer Glass, which is upstate New York, the Glimmer Glass Festival. And it's run by Francesca Zambello, who's the artistic director for Washington Opera. I will sing 2 different roles, Zoroaster from Magic Flute and Banquo from Macbeth. And, you know, just continuing. Then I go to LA, and I come back to DC where I play Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King in a production called Appomattox.
Wow.
The show is
Now,
called
when is that going to be?
We open in October.
Okay.
You could just visit, you know, Washington National
So yes,
Opera's
you'll be here
website.
for the November 7th.
I will be back in the DC area.
Wow.
So that will be at the Washington National Opera,
Okay.
Appomattox, and you know, I'm excited. And more stuff is just coming in. My agent is always sending me emails, Bill Pallant, you know, Saul, I got this invitation, I got that invitation. So you know, we're just grateful that, you know, people appreciate, you know, the gift that I have, and actually want to, you know, offer me opportunities.
Well, I am grateful, first of all, for your humility.
Oh, thank you very much.
Don't ever lose that.
Yes.
And also for your friendship, because it's been many, many years. And when I asked, you said yes.
Yes.
And I really, really appreciate it. I don't take it lightly. I know you could be, I mean, heck, you perform on stages all around the world. So to say yes for this means a great deal.
My pleasure,
and I
my
thank
honor.
you. And that's going to wrap it up for us. Oh, before we go, do you want them to reach out to your agent if someone sees the show and wants to connect to you?
Oh, yes.
Or your-
Bill Pallant through IMG Artist.
Okay.
So, yeah, so they can reach out.
Okay. And also they can follow you on Facebook, Solomon
Facebook,
Howard. And
yeah.
as you corrected me, SOLOMAN,
M-A-N.
Soloman
Right.
Howard.
Right.
And it's been a
Right.
pleasure having you here. And we're going to have to sign off here. And I thank you so much. I know you could have been someplace else this morning, but instead you chose to spend your time with us, and I appreciate it. So have a great week, and I will see you next week, same time on the flip side. Bye-bye.